Good. I'm excited. I don't know about you. I am excited.
I'm good. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited. I'm not really used to being on this side, but thanks for having me on. Uh, every Friday, as of right now, until we get canceled.
I was just informed that my mic was muted, but there it is. I'm on now, so y'all could hear me, but nobody at home could. So let's rewind. Let's
Isn't it the first episode? I think it's the
Hey,
first
you know what?
episode.
You know what? Let's run the intro back one time and just start it again because I'm recording this and I'd like for it to be good. So let's
Okay.
do this. Let's do this one more
Okay.
time. Let me hit record. It just the 1 minute intro, not the 1700 minute intro.
Not the
So
1700.
yeah. So here we go.
All right.
All right. So that worked better. And welcome
two?
to Four Laps Down, Take Two. It's our premiere episode. We're here with Chris Womack from CR7 Motorsports and the host of the Racing Table, a weekly NASCAR podcast with him and several other mechanics from various Cup, truck, and Xfinity teams around NASCAR. So, Chris, you're our first ever guest. Welcome to the show.
Oh man, thanks for having me on. I mean, you couldn't find like better person than me. I feel like my name really doesn't carry well.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Much like the Racing Table, we are a new podcast for this season. This is our first ever episode, and we wanted somebody who could come in and tell stories and talk about NASCAR in a way that people find interesting. That's really the goal of Four Laps Down. We're not a recap show. We're not going to be talking about. What happened last week, what happened this week, what who to bet on. We are going to have a show about who to fill out your DraftKings lineup, but it's not going to be part of this show. We're going to be doing that weekly with your resident gambling expert, Chris Land, and we are going to be doing that a little bit later. But one of the things that we really wanted out of this show, Chris, and why we asked you to be on, is we just wanted people who could talk about what it's like to be around NASCAR. In various capacities, right? And we're looking, obviously, Ship and I, everybody meet my co-host, Daniel Ship from Fayetteville, North Carolina, Lieutenant Dan, as we call him.
Yeah, buddy.
Lieutenant Dan.
He does have legs, but he also carries the title of Lieutenant, so that's where he gets that moniker. But, Ship and I are lifelong fans. I think a lot of the people who are going to be tuning in and joining us each week on our show are also going to be fans. So we want to hear from people like yourself who are mechanics, who are spotters, who are drivers, who are sponsors, all of these different type of perspectives that you don't hear from a lot because everybody on TV just wants to interview who's turning the steering wheel. And we want to hear from everybody else who makes it possible for these guys to have that steering wheel in a fast car under them. Chris, I got to be honest with you. I'm not a professional broadcaster, so I don't really know how to start interviews. But that's why Ship is here, because he has a broadcasting degree. He's pointing to it off camera there. But I know that we want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to our fans. And by the way, we're not a new community on Facebook. The Four Laps Down Nation is almost 2,000 people strong. We're about a year old now. We talk rubbing, racing, and country music. And, of course, everybody's favorite pastime, Busch Light. Good timing right there. So Chris, give us a little bit of background on you and your career and your involvement in the sport of NASCAR.
Well, see, I actually been in racing since I was about probably 12 years old. My first job was actually doing tires on a late model team when I was about 12. And,
Wow.
it progressive, over the years, and, hobby just kind of turned into, a job. And then the job actually turned into a career. It was something, in my mid 20s, I was like, you know what? I think I want to quit working for a living and go work on race cars for a living. So
that's a great place to be.
Yeah. So that's how that started. But yeah, because people ask me all the time how long I've been in racing. I said, well, if you ask me NASCAR, it's like 9 years or 8 years. Sorry. I said, but I've been racing for like 20 years. I just hadn't got paid until like 8 years ago.
So let's look at it here. So you recently gone to CR7, like we talked about. You were with Go Fast beforehand. So you're going to now basically a strictly, I know they run ARCA, I believe, some too, correct, with CR7, but mostly it's focused on the truck series. So where does that transition come from? Is it a hard transition to be more focused on trucks? Do you feel more comfortable with the trucks than where you were with Go Fast?
Yes and no. Yes, because I feel like a cup car is like one of the hardest things to work on, but it's easy in some points. And there's a lot of parts from the cup car or a cup car that go onto a truck. So it's pretty easy, if like the rear end, the spindles, the A-arms, like all the parts is pretty much the same, but the way you set them up is kind of the same. But it's a little different too, because on the trucks, you actually still have the ride height rule. On the cup car, you can slam them to the ground and just go.
Mm-hmm.
So with it being the ride height rule like it used to be in cup, it taking some time to get used to, because you see everything at not full travel, like what I'm not used to. So I still have to get my mind wrapped around that, but it's not a bad transition.
So have you been, because you guys are getting ready for Friday. I mean, that comes up pretty quick. You were kind of going through the off season. They say off season, but I mean, for guys in your positions that are in the garage, it's not really an off season for you guys. You guys are actually working probably twice as hard during those times because you're getting those trucks ready to go. So how is it now? I mean, are you in that kind of slowing it down mode now that the trucks are going to be in Daytona now? Are you kind of being able to slow it?
Yeah. So actually, this morning we went ahead and loaded up the super speedway truck. So that's done. The road course truck is done. And I think, is it Vegas or Atlanta is the next race after that? I can't even remember, but the next mile and a half, that truck is like 85% done. So yes, it's actually slowed down a lot now. So we can actually focus. And honestly, with the whole COVID deal, and like we don't have to practice and qualifying, it actually makes my job or everybody's job so much easier. But we're getting in transition now where it's really starting to slow down.
So you mentioned obviously moving to I don't want to say a smaller team to diminish the work that you're doing, but it's different,
right,
at a different scale than working for a full-time charter team at the Cup Series. Is it more enjoyable, less enjoyable? You talked a little bit about the lighter schedule on your podcast, and I never had considered that, but are you having more fun than you've ever had?
Honestly, I have fun working on race cars. It don't really matter. As of right now, it's not as, how can I put this where it don't sound bad? Like the pressure's there, but it's not there because it's a truck deal. It's still a race car, but we don't have to be like gone for 38 weeks and make sure everything's right. The schedule's so spread out, I can actually breathe a little bit. And yes, right now it is fun. I feel like when the season gets started, it's going to be It's going to be fun. It almost reminds me of working on these trucks and not having a lot of people. Is like just like my late model days, where it's not a lot of races, but it's enough to do. So I think I will have fun.
So we have our first question from the audience.
Oh no.
And I'm gonna butcher this name. Willie Palat says this guy rules. Go Womack. Do you still miss Randy?
Yes.
Is there a safe for TV story there? Because some of y'all stories on the racing table,
Man, I'm telling you,
are hilarious.
My son walks in and I have to kind of go, okay, hang on, let me okay, hang on, you go that way.
So all right, so Randy, actually Willie is one of the co-hosts on the podcast. So I figure one of them.
Oh,
guys
okay.
So
it's that Willie. Okay, the last name,
yes.
I didn't know the last name, but that makes sense.
Pilot.
Oh, Pilot. Okay,
Pilot.
see, I told you I'd butcher it. Sorry, Willie. Don't hate me.
So I'm trying to find a good Randy story. Okay, so if anybody's listening to the podcast, Randy is one of our old crew chief, and let me tell you, I'm trying to be PG. So Randy is like,
trust me, you can say the F word if you want. This ain't we're not the FCC's not here.
We don't have to worry about that thing that he was saying that he had to worry about.
Yeah.
So Randy Cox is like a badass, right? Like Randy is like a 2-time kickboxing champion, like a Green Beret. Like he's just a bad dude, right? And he's so cool. He's down to earth. He's so smart, and he's an awesome crew chief to work for. And I used to pick with him, and Randy is like almost 6 foot tall and like 200 some pounds. Like he's a good sized fella, right?
Yeah.
Like he can hold his own.
He's the dude you want on your team when the bar fight happens.
Yes.
Mhm.
I actually, there's some stories I probably can't tell by that with Randy that's told me. But anyways, so a good one is I can't remember where we was at, Michigan or Loudon or somewhere, and we're in the hauler and we're like just talking junk, and I'm like in the middle of the hauler eating my lunch or whatever, and he's walking back up to the lounge, and I was like, yeah, that's right, you better walk away. Well, I don't know where he picks up this racing shoe, like a driver's shoe. And, the haulers are like 50 foot long, and he slings it like a perfect tomahawk and hits me in the back of the head with it. But he laughed, and, I laughed. I was like, you know what? You throw one more shoe, I'm about to come down there. Luckily, he didn't have another shoe to throw.
Was that lucky for him or lucky for you?
Both.
Okay, fair enough.
But there's a lot of Randy stories that I can't tell.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, just the amount of stories that y'all tell where you have to change names. For example,
like Glenn McMuffler's.
Well, and Willie actually says just
look,
now.
Here we go. Yeah,
I saw
exactly.
Glenn McMuffler today. He was standing upright, which is not his natural habitat. Yeah. So Glenn, listen, Glenn, whoever Glenn McMuffler really is, needs to start a parody Twitter like NASCAR Chasm. It's called Glenn McMuffler because it's gold. I'm telling you. When y'all were going back and forth about, well, do we say no? We can't say his name. His name's Glenn McMuffler. I about wrecked my truck. I was laughing so hard. It was.
But don't worry, there's gonna be some more Glenn McMuffler stories. We just kind of have to spread them out.
Well, yeah, you got to spread the love. You can't burn all your best content in the first episode.
That's right. That's right.
So talk to us a little bit about the racing table because you guys, obviously there's a lot of NASCAR podcasts out there, but we're not sure that there are any that are broadcast live on Facebook. So we feel like we have a little bit of a unique kind of a niche market there. But y'all have a really interesting one. Tell us a little bit about your podcast and kind of what you guys do that's a little bit different than some of the other ones like the Dirty Mo podcast and stuff like that.
Well, so anybody that knows me and then like that's worked with me, for years now, we've been trying to get a podcast or something going, because I always feel like the NASCAR mechanics, no matter what series you're in, always get shit on, right?
Sure.
Like, I feel like everybody always looks at the driver, always looks at the pit crew. Like, nobody really cares about the mechanics that work on these cars, right? And, I really wanted to start a podcast to tell our story, to let people know, hey, it's not just them, it's us. Like, we're in the trenches every day working, we're the guys that's in the garage in Iowa or Michigan in August and it's 145 degrees, and we're working, and I guess I'm a big advocate for us because I just want people to know what we go through. And
so how did you kind of?
no, I was
go
just
ahead,
going to say, I was just going to say that's where the idea come from because we sit there in the shop all the time and we'll bullshit and we'll just talk about topics. And we used to joke, like me, Willie, and Mike. We used to joke, podcast discussion, and just talk about stuff. And I just really wanted the fans, and like you said, there's a lot of NASCAR podcasts out, and we had to do something a little different. And so I figured us telling our side of the story and what we had to go through was a good baseline for the show.
So you had said in your first episode that you weren't sure if y'all were going to get canceled or I got to tell you, it was interesting. Chip and I were talking, and I said, I found the conversation because by the time we had already decided we were going to do this before I discovered your podcast, The Racing Table, and so as I'm listening to it, and I think, man, it was so. What actually made me listen to it was you joined our group, 4 Laps Down Nation, and you posted y'all's first episode, and you said new podcast, listen to it. And I remember one of our I don't want to say coworkers because we don't make money off this, but one of our other guys that was doing the NFL show with us at the time said, "Hey, what are your thoughts on somebody coming in our group and promoting their own stuff? Because a lot of groups don't let you do that." And I said, if it's something that's not going to get me in trouble, I love it because I want to help everybody promote their stuff. So he actually showed me your post, said, well, here's this guy, and I remember going and listening to it, and you talk all about, we might get canceled and we might do this. And I thought it, and I kind of laughed because I told Chip, I said, we ain't got to worry about getting canceled because ain't nobody paying us to do this. So we can say whatever the hell we want, and I was like, so, but I want to hear kind of about that dynamic about having the idea for the podcast and then you guys kind of throw it, because it seemed like you threw it all together fairly quickly, what was that like? What was that process like for you?
Well, to be clear, we don't make no money either. Right. We don't make no money either. But yeah, so like we talked in the shop BS about, we want to do this, and then just like I say in the first episode, Ryan Ellis comes up to me and said, "Hey, you still want to do a podcast?" I'm like, "Yes, absolutely." And he was like, "Okay, let's do it." And I think within a week, I was meeting the people from Click Marketing and getting the ball rolling. And then it felt like 2 weeks later, we was in a studio. Wow. It was quick. It was very surreal. I was like, there ain't no way this has happened. There's no way. And then all of a sudden, once you're in the studio, you're just like, oh shit, okay, this is happening.
That's cool. Yeah, for us, it looked a little different. I mean, a lot of the folks watching, a lot of people are going to see this after the fact too. For us, it was a different process. I mean, we started this group during COVID last year, as we were bored, and it started as the best term I can use, and I know this is going to offend some people, but I'm allowed to say it because I are one. We started it as kind of like a redneck hillbilly group.
Yeah,
we literally. You can say it proud.
Yeah.
Come on, say it proud.
Trust me, I are one. I think it was Jeff Foxtrot. You can't say it unless you are one, and I are one.
I are one.
So
you're up north. You can be an up north redneck.
Trust me. Up here we're hillbillies. Down there y'all are rednecks. But yeah, we're rednecks. It's the same thing. We're all cut from the same cloth. And I can tell you that we started this group. And it literally within a matter of days, we had hundreds of people in this group posting videos of them shotgunning Busch Light, and I went to Lowe's and I spent $10 and built a beer bong and stood on my buddy's gravel driveway, and he stood on the roof of his Ford Raptor and poured 4 beers into this thing. I mean, we had a contest. We had a contest where we made some cheap T-shirts and we were giving them away for whoever could make the best watermelon crawl music video. I mean, it was just in the city they call it ratchet. In the country we call it hillbilly, and it was all it was. And then when COVID came around, we found ourselves, we were going live on Facebook drinking beer and listening to country music, and we'd called it 4 Laps Down, and NASCAR comes back and we said, well, hell, let's go live and talk about NASCAR. So we did. We had a pool for the Coke 600. We went live between all the stages, and people just started eating it up. So we said, okay, next year we got to do this a little bit more. We got to do something that people will enjoy, that's a little bit more scheduled, and that's kind of how this was born. And so I got the bright idea. I said, well, we need a way to figure out the best way to do this. So week 1 of the NFL season, we said, well, Friday nights we're going to go live. We're going to talk about football. We're going to pick the games. We're going to do, and we did it. We didn't miss a week, and it allowed us to figure out how to put this show together. So it was a little bit of a different process, but we sit here and we're enjoying it. We're just fans, I'll be honest with you. I told Chip, I was like, I'm just tickled pink that anybody who actually gets a NASCAR paycheck would be willing to mess with our show, because I'll be honest with you. I've had some people that I've asked that probably are not getting podcast offers ever. If it's, I'm not interested. One guy now, and I believe this might be true, but one guy said, I'd love to, but my contract says that I can't. And he sweeps floors at an Xfinity team. And I was like, well, maybe that's true. But I was like,
well, it depends on what team it was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I won't give out all the details because I don't want to insult this guy.
No, not at all. That's not what we're doing.
No. But at the same,
well, if you tell me on the podcast, I'll do it on the podcast because we don't give it up.
Well, you know what? I should give less of a damn because we've got no sponsors, nobody to answer to. So, but at the same time, I get it. I'm just thrilled that you're here, and we've got a pretty good lineup of folks coming on the show. So we've gotten pretty lucky, but you're here not to hear our story, but to tell us stories and not for us to laugh.
Yeah, he gets to rambling and it's hard to stop him. I try.
That's okay.
Hey, listen, I have a bachelor's degree in Don't Shut Up. That's my education.
Obviously,
background.
You didn't finish college then.
Correct. So we've talked a little bit about, your podcast and kind of your background in racing. I want to hear from you as a mechanic. What are some of your favorite parts about not just NASCAR, but about working on race cars? Why do you love it the way that you do?
I think, man, that's a tough question. I mean, that's a good question, but it's a tough question. As a time I was a kid, I'm gonna have to go back when I was a kid. I've always wanted to be in NASCAR. Somehow, some way, I wanted to do it. And, when I finally got the chance to do it, I'm very lucky. Just like everybody in that garage is very lucky to get there because there's a lot of good mechanics and spotters or whoever that never make it. So I'm very fortunate. I'm very grateful to be in it. And every day I wake up, I just love working on a race car. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing on it. If I go into work and it's like, hey, you need to build side skirts. Okay, that's fine with me. I just want to work on race cars. It doesn't matter. Now, there is some jobs that I don't like on the race car, but I'd rather do the shitty jobs on the race car than be in a normal job, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So you do, and I like to go back to it. So, and I had, like I told you before, and I had shared your episode that you did with Chase, which I thought was phenomenal. And it was, it's really interesting to see kind of how you guys do the dynamics of putting these shows together. Cause when you go back, it basically starts around the beginning of December or the middle of December is kind of when these kind of kicked off. And you go into it and you're about 10 episodes in now. So, and each one of them are about an hour long and have each different concept. So where do those, is it just when you guys are bullshitting around in the garage and it goes, hey, we're going to talk about Chili Bowl recap this week, which I thought was awesome. And the Liam Dietrich interview was really good too. So is it just kind of on a whim? Hey, this is where we're going to go with this week.
Yeah, a little bit, but my co-hosts is Mike, Jesse, and Willie. They bail me out a lot of stuff too. Like they help me out a ton. Normally we just kind of go by like whatever's happening that week, and we don't really have a script, but I have just a piece of paper with just points. And then Jesse would come up with a topic because Jesse came up with the topic for the Chili Bowl
around the beginning
because Jesse's a really, 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 really big fan of the dirt stuff. So I kind of just let him roll off of that, and then a lot of stuff when we get the bullshitting, in the studio, it will just roll into something else. It's not really a set plan, Willie said at one time, we have a sheet of paper and we actually might only hit half of the stuff on that paper because our topics and how we flow so good, we just roll into something else.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and an hour long. If it was me, if it was up to me, I would go more.
Mm-hmm.
But like Willie and Jesse was like, no, let's do an hour because a lot of people might just be like, all right, it's been 2 hours. I'm just gonna, I mean,
it could be good for a road trip. You get those long ones, which, like I said, you guys have been able to put it in super organized, and you go from one straight to the next. So, I mean, I'm sure there's going to come that time when you guys are sitting there and you're going, wow, man, it's almost 10 o'clock at night. We bad to go. I'm sure the time flies when you're doing that kind of stuff.
And I think like this coming week, when we go back in the studio and film or record, it's going to be about the 500 weekend and about the trucks and, and the bush. And I'm sure that episode might be, like longer than an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Because the 500 itself is like a season in itself.
Oh God,
everything going on.
I mean, we see what it's doing now. Absolutely, it takes up the whole week.
I want to ask you a little bit. Obviously, it is Daytona week. The closest thing I'll get to being in Daytona is I did win a race in trucks at Daytona on iRacing last night. Door checking a dude coming out of 4 because he tried to pass me in the last corner, but.
So it was you and one other dude? It was just you two people on the track?
No, listen, I started on the pole. It was a 25-lap sprint, and I led 22 laps, and I moved the guy out of my way on the last lap when he got around me. It was a pro racer move, I'm just saying. But I digress because that's not important here. But I want to talk to you a little bit about Daytona. Well, easy. They're grown men. They tell me all the time they can beat me up when I wreck them. But
coming from the guy that plays Fortnite.
Oh, you stop it. My son plays Fortnite. Anyway, so moving on, Ship. All right, let's do a clean break so we can cut it for the podcast recording and go. Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about Daytona here, Womack, because obviously Daytona, this is like the biggest. It's a week after the Super Bowl, and it's Super Bowl week for NASCAR. I mean, it's literally full feet into the fire. What's it like for you? I mean, because you've been at Daytona. How many times is this now? You're going to be there between all the series.
Eighth time. Eighth time, I think. Eighth, yeah.
So is it something where do you ever get used to the hype, or is it kind of like a kid going to Disneyland every time for you?
So this is my opinion. I don't speak for everybody, but on my opinion, when the last race comes around. I'm like, Jesus, I'm just, I'm ready for the season to be over with, right? Like, I'm ready, I'm done, and then you work in the shop during the winter and you're like, oh, I don't even, this is getting, boring or whatever, but as soon as Daytona comes, you're like, oh God, I got to get on this plane or I have to get in this van and go to Daytona. But for me, as soon as I walk in that garage area, yeah, it's like first day of school. Like, you're excited to see everybody, like you said, it's almost like Disney World every time. So, the last race of the year is really good because it's just a good break. But yeah, going to Daytona for me, it's always like a first day of school. Like, I'm just excited to be back.
That's awesome. So we'll obviously talk about it. I mean, because these past year and some changes has been a lot different, and we see it with the changes to health and safety protocols. Everybody on the track is masked up. So does it feel different in the garage, or is it still kind of that same feeling around everybody? I mean, I know you guys it's not going up and hugging people anymore, or, you gotta, they've got the people that are there and you've got the hand sanitizer stations that are there and stuff. So have you guys had to change up the way you do things in the garage even anymore, or is it kind of still the same around other teams when you're out there?
Well, it's still kind of the same, but but you're keeping your distance too, if that makes sense. NASCAR does a really good job about just keeping us separated too. Luckily for us, like the garages are spaced far enough apart now, because the way we go in there, most time the trucks and the Busch cars and the Cup cars still have their separate garages. Well, now if everybody's got a one-day show, they can use them, 100 garages and spread everybody out.
Mm-hmm.
So, NASCAR's done a really good job about that. But as far as like working on them and like going through tech, you kind of keep your distance, but that part has stayed the same.
Yeah. So, and thank you for calling them the Busch cars, by the way. That's their God.
Oh, I still
name.
do. Oh,
Yeah.
trust me, I'm a
I
redneck.
know
Wager.
I knew y'all did. I knew
Yeah.
y'all would.
Yeah, it makes people
And
laugh.
Winston Cup cars.
Yep.
They're still Winston Cup.
It's always going to be the Winston Cup. And my 7-year-old said one day, he goes, "Do you mean the Piston Cup? That's in cars." I said, "No, buddy. One day you'll learn."
Yeah.
I said, "Don't." Hey, I told my 7-year-old, I said, "I'm not real old, but I'm old enough that my first race that I ever went to, Dale Senior, rest in power, won that race. I was at the '95 Brickyard 400, and what a time to be alive." But so let's talk a little bit about Daytona, because I know in some conversations that you and I have had, you've got some stories about Daytona. But we lost.
Where'd I go?
We lost him.
No, I'm here.
Hey,
Oh, your camera shut off again.
I don't know. It does that every
It's
once
that-
in a while.
Well,
I actually have a funny Daytona story involving cigarettes like years ago.
okay. Well, I was going to ask you. You got any hilarious Daytona stories you want to tell us?
Man, I got some pretty good ones. All right, so one of them, this is not. I don't know if this is a good story or whatever, but a few years ago we was getting ready for qualifying. We was all out there, and I went by the fence to smoke a cigarette because we had like 15 minutes to kill or whatever, right? And one of these security guards, just doing his job, nothing knocking him. He goes, "Hey, you can't smoke out here." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." I don't care. I don't care. I don't care what he says to me. I'm still gonna smoke a cigarette. And he was like, "Hey, no, you can't smoke out here." I'm like, "Dude, I don't know if you know this, but cigarettes made this sport, so you can just get out of my face." So
That's
that
hilarious.
so there's been you know what? I do have a good Randy story for you
Okay.
about Daytona. So I would say 2 or 3 years ago, Corey LaJoie's first year with us. So we come down lap 18 and we're going to do fuel only, right? So we come down, Corey slides the tires, didn't know he slides the tires, blows the right front tire, leaving pit road, right? So me and the car chief is kind of like directing people on what to do.
And that's
right?
what you are now for your team, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes. So the car chief, John, is down there and he's telling the pit crew, okay, this person's staying back, this person's staying back. Me and Womack's going over, get the bear bond, get the sawzall, just get everything ready. So unbeknownst to us, we thought the pit crew had everything ready. So, we're trying to scramble, get all this stuff, and Randy is freaking out, screaming on the radio, right? So the car comes down, we jump over the wall, they throw me a sawzall. I'm on the right front at the windshield on the back of the tire. I get ready to cut the fender off, and the battery about dies. It goes doof, doof, and it just stops. So I'm like, you have to kill me. So I hit it again, and they didn't have the blade in. So when I hit it again, it finally caught a little bit of juice, and the blade shot out. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So, and then somehow one of the tire changers has a razor blade. I don't know what the hell is he going to cut with this razor blade, but he's trying to cut this Kevlar hood with the razor blade. I'm like, you got to be the stupidest SOB I've ever worked with in my life. Just leave, get out of here. So, we're pulling stuff with our hand and we're taping stuff down, and we get Corey back out there and he comes back and we finally cut everything off because we found a fresh battery. I don't know if we stole it or what, but we had a fresh battery in the sawzall. And we leave, and Randy comes down off the box and he says, I guess you'll charge the batteries next time. I'm like, yeah, I guess I will. So Randy could shoot out without chewing you out. Like, he was so intimidating, he didn't have to like yell and scream at you.
You gotta love those guys. So what? I'm intrigued by this because you said the sawzall blade shot out. Where did it go?
Don't know. I never found it.
Oh.
So it fell somewhere in the motor, and I wasn't going to stick my hand in under to find out. And I'm like, well, it didn't go in the carburetor, so we're good. Ship them.
Well, so Ryan Ellis is checking in the chat, and and Andrew Hawley says, "Hey, Womack, are you doing tires on the truck also?" LOL.
No, no, no. I'm retired from doing tires.
There you go. There you go. So you got to tell everybody at home, because you kind of alluded to me the other day. So tell me a little bit about the time. I guess it was last year on the Daytona road course, and you're ripping windshield tears, and was it at the Daytona road course that you tore the wiper blade off the 32?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay. Oh yeah. So I was the front end mechanic, right, from the 32, and we have a interior guy, and his name's Bill. Love Bill to death, but he didn't go over the wall and do the tear offs. Like, I was behind the car chief. I was the next man over to do damage repair, so I would just natural fit to do the tear offs and water bottles and whatnot. So Bill puts this windshield wiper blade on, and I really kind of don't pay attention to him of how he does it and tell him how to do it. I'm like, Bill, I know how the hell to do a tear off. Like, I don't care. So I'm pretty sure first pit stop, we come down. I'm trying to pick up the windshield wiper blade and pull the tear off. Well, I pull the tear off and hit the blade. The blade comes off in my hand. So I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, screw it. So I jump back. Yeah. So I jump back over the wall, and I'm like, it's okay. The sun's out. It's not going to rain. And, we run a few more laps. And then, do you remember what happens? The rain clouds come in. It's like, oh, we're going to stop for rain because there's lightning in an area. I'm like, great. It's going to start raining. And we don't have a windshield wiper.
And you're standing there holding the windshield wiper in your hand.
Yes.
Hey, do you
and
guys
me
need
blaming
this?
Bill. I was blaming Bill. Like, it was Bill's fault that I broke it.
I feel like, though, that you would eventually got caught, because there's no way. Well, and maybe he's not paying attention to this, but Corey had to seen you up there tearing that off and then standing there like a dumbass holding the wiper in your hand. I don't know. Hey, maybe you slipped Corey a fresh 20 before the before the next pit stop and was like, listen, just this between us,
just
man.
let it
You
go.
didn't see
Hey,
nothing.
just say I found this on the ground.
Yeah.
It came off.
Hey,
I don't know where.
It was over there.
Maybe it's not
there's
even your windshield wiper blade. I just found it.
Out back in the pit box, there was a windshield wiper and a Sawzall blade. I don't get it. I don't know what
Exactly.
I'm looking for here, but
I even found a dead battery. We probably need to go find who needs to charge that.
Yeah. Hey, trust me, Corey has seen a lot of stuff sitting in that seat when we going over the wall. Charlotte, for the Coke 600, we run 12th, and I don't know. During the race, he's eating these damn applesauce packs or wherever the hell they are, right? So I was going to be a nice guy and rip one open for him and hand it to him where he could just drink it, right? Well, he didn't know that I ripped it open. So when I handed it to him, he squeezed it because he was going to break the top off of it. And when he squeezed it, the shit went all over his fire suit and everything else. So he was like, it looks like I just pooped myself and I didn't even do nothing. Thanks, Womack. I'm like,
you got baby vomit all over the front of his shirt, basically.
So during a pit stop, you managed to soil Corey LaJoie's fire suit, and he had time to look you and say, well, Mac, it looks like I've shit myself. Thank you.
Yes.
That's
yes.
fantastic. That's incredible.
Me and Corey actually had a lot of fun times doing that stuff. Like, when we would run good, I would flip him the bird inside the car. We just had a good chemistry. Like, I knew when he was feeling good, and I could do stupid shit like that.
Yeah. That reminds me of a story that, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. He was long time the marketing manager for the 48 team, and him and Jimmy had this thing that they did where it was a contest, and they kept track, they kept score. Every day you got 1 point. The first one to be able to flip the other one off. Like, so, it's kind of like the circle game, you see the circle, you get to punch him. They did it, and it was the middle finger, and whoever got it first that day got a point, and they kept track of it, and it was funny because when Jimmy was retiring last year, exactly kind of what gave me the idea for this podcast is you heard all these stories about all these other people. Everybody thinks, well, of course, Jimmy Johnson is a great driver, works for Hendricks, a great team, got a great crew, but nobody ever really hears from these people what is it like to work with Jimmy and work for Mr. Hendrick and all this stuff. And they started telling these stories because Jimmy's retiring and now's the time. And it was just reading all of them. Excuse me, we'll cut that.
Nice Busch Light.
Reading all of them. I it's kind of what gave me the idea. I was like, these are awesome. I find myself scrolling through Twitter, wanting to read about his publicist and his marketing, all these people telling about the other side that you don't see when the cars are shut off and the cameras are put away, and that's kind of why we have you on here. And I want to ask you, it's not, we've had a lot of fun here, a lot of fun stories, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask for you to talk to us a little bit about Daytona last year, because obviously for your team, it was a little bit different. I'll never forget, and that was on a Monday night. I'll never forget watching the race on my way home. I worked about 90 minutes away. It was a 90-minute commute at the time, and I was watching the race on my phone. I carpooled, and I was riding shotgun that night.
I was about to say, I'm glad I was about to say, you just kind of, hang on, guys.
Yeah.
Hang on, am I clear to the left? All right, I can get over.
So in that 90-minute drive is how the idea of 4 laps down as a kind of a community was born. Myself and my buddy, Rick Diamond, we came up with the idea for this, and he and I worked together. So we live about 30 minutes north of Cincinnati. We worked up in Columbus. It was about an hour and a half drive each way. Long story short, I was watching the race on my phone, and we get home, and it's about, I bet it was about 20 to go when I got back to the house. And I go in, I turn it on in the living room. My wife knows the rules. When there's fast cars on the TV, where Dora the Explorer gets turned off, and the kids get to sit in the corner and they can scream if they want to. We don't care. I've got at least one of them about interested in racing this, so we're getting there. So I turn the race on and watching the end of the race, and obviously as anybody who's watching the show knows how that ended, with the horrific crash that we damn near lost Ryan Newman. And I'll never forget standing there and knowing how I felt. I'm old enough to remember 20 years ago, when we lost Dale, and I remember watching that wreck, and at the time being too young to understand what I was watching.
Right.
I was genuinely surprised later when I had found out what had happened. But I'm watching that, and I just remember this cloud of, oh shit, that just came over me. Now, your relation to this, is you're on at the time on the pit crew of the 32, who was probably the most involved in that collision other than the 6 car. And you don't have to get into any details that you're uncomfortable with, but talk to us about what that was like, being on the other side, the not seeing it on TV, not what Fox would show us, because we didn't get to see a lot. They didn't show the replay for a while. They didn't show the replay close enough. I didn't realize it was the 32 car that actually hit Ryan Newman until later, some weeks later, when they were willing to show it and they were willing to air the radioactive episode that they'd prepared and all that kind of stuff. So talk to us a little bit about being on the other side of that.
Okay. So, for a small team, as the 32 was, Daytona, either if you go in July or February, we always felt like we had a chance to run good because we always had good strategy, pretty decent cars, and we could normally finish top 5, top 10 if we didn't get wrecked. And, and we've been in that situation before, like with Matt that time, I think 3 or 4 years ago when we was running third with him with like 2 or 3 to go, and Kurt Busch wrecked us. So being back in that,
not Kurt Busch.
So being back in that, we knew we was in a good position, maybe get a top 5 or win. So coming down to the checkered, the 6 car's flipping, right? So everybody's first thought is, oh shit, where are we? So like we're looking, and the spotter is trying to say, get low, get low, get low. But, everything's happened so fast, he hits them. And we're like, shit. And then everything kind of like starts to slow down. You know what I mean? Like we see the car starting to roll, and he stopped upside down. And, my first thought was, nah, shit, there's fuel. You got to get him out of that car. Like, is he okay? You got to get him out. And then I go, is Corey okay? Cause I never heard Corey on the radio. So a lot of us is kind of freaking out in the pit box, is like, we don't hear Corey. And then the spotter said, no, he's fine. We talked, we're good. And, like I said, and then the folks go back to Newman, And we're sitting there and everybody's running out, right? I think his pit crew ran out there, and I think maybe another pit crew. We're all kind of just like looking, but at that same time when we're looking, we also have a job to do, right? So we have to go to our car and get it tear down for NASCAR, or what's left of it, and get ready to load it up and go home. Well, we get there and we're waiting on the record, and we keep waiting and waiting. We was like, man, this is not good, right? So so NASCAR came over to us and said, hey, listen, just go to your hauler, we'll bring the car to you or whatever, right? So we're standing there, we're bullshitting, we're getting, changed and all that stuff, just waiting on the car and getting the rest of the truck loaded up. Well, our car comes by, and this thing is killed. Destroyed, right? And we're like, holy shit, like that's pretty bad. Mm-hmm. Like, man, like Corey's lucky he didn't get hurt, like really, really hurt. So NASCAR's like, we're going to take your car. We're going to put it down in this garage area, shut the doors, we're taking it. So we kind of knew something was seriously going wrong then, right? And then, so we go up in the lounge, finish getting dressed, and somebody on the team, I won't say who, somebody on the team came and said, hey, listen, don't say nothing, but we probably killed Ryan Newman, right? And everybody's like,
oh, you had that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, oh shit, and the guy who told us been in the sport for a long time, he said, we haven't seen this and them putting the black curtain up, because now, they have the Jumbotron, right? But they're not really showing that, it's like, we just have to hear from other people on pit road what's going on, and they got the black curtain up, right? And they got our car, closed off, and they're looking at it. And somebody on the team that told us not to say nothing, watch what you say. He's been in the sport a long time, and he said the last time anything like this happened and they put the black curtain up and they put a car in the garage and locked it up is when Dale Senior got killed. Mm-hmm. So he was like, just, he goes, you don't know who's listening or who's walking by, just, keep everything to yourself. And then, man, we, then, like, my phone's blown up. Like, my family, my friends, race fans that I know, my phone's blown up, and I don't know no more than they do, right? No more than they do. And we're standing there, we're waiting and waiting, and then, 30 minutes turns into an hour turns into 2 hours. We're like, man, this is bad. So finally NASCAR comes over there, says, hey, we're done with your car, but you can't have it. We're going to take it back to the R&D to get it to do more investigation. I'm like, and to me, right then when they said that, I'm like, oh yeah, he's dead. I was like, yeah, he's dead. And I'm like, I figured since they're doing that, he's dead. We're just, they're just waiting. And then finally we get on the airplane, and I'm pretty sure, like we said in the podcast, I think it was like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. There's nobody on this plane except for me and the guys on the 32, a few other people, and then the preacher from MRO. We was waiting on him. He came from the hospital, and he was actually the one who said that he was alert. Like, he's not out of the woods yet, but he's alert. So it was a good sign. So everybody was like, oh, like, okay, like, that weight is lifted, like, great, good news. Like, we can actually fly home, with a peace of mind now. You know what I mean? Like, because you hate flying home or driving home, and you're just, and you got this heavy burden on you, and you're just thinking about somebody's well-being, the whole time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I mean, and then you look at it and, what, 4 to 6 weeks later, we're, actually it'll be a couple months, because COVID took a break, and that allotted him the opportunity to kind of recoup and come back. So that's a deep story. So because we're coming up on about an hour we've been running this now. That's pretty good. It's gone by quick. So
it's amazing how much this will go by quick when you're thinking, oh man, I ain't got enough material to do 5 or 10 minutes. It's amazing how much when you get to talking, you're on the road, it could last for a while.
I've never had the thought, how am I going to fill 10 minutes? It's never
it never, because I mean, you even said it when you came on. You said, you're not used to being on this side of the table. Normally you're where we're sitting and you ask those questions. So I know we talked about the Sawzall and the applesauce. Is there one of those moments that stands out more than anything else that just, when you sit back and think about it, it just makes you laugh? Has there ever been one of those that just makes you go, I'd be damn, I can't believe I did that shit?
I'm trying to think because there's a lot. I'm trying to figure out which ones that I can tell without getting anybody in trouble.
And you can change names. You can tell Glenn McMuffler stories, whatever you want.
They ain't even got to be Glenn McMuffler. They could be, I don't care, John.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of a good one. I know my buddies that I've worked with can come up with some good ones, but like, you know what? I got a good one from my ARCA days. That's pretty good. So this is actually Daytona. This is a Daytona one. For some reason, I don't know why a lot of my stories is about Daytona, but there is and I won't say too many names, but there is a car owner in the ARCA series that's like the Rick Hendrick of the ARCA series, and you probably know who I'm talking about, and anybody in racing probably know who I'm talking about. Well, you know the urinal cakes and the urinal like the pink ones or the blue ones or whatever.
I've seen them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, a concert or two.
Ship, hold on. Ship P's sitting down. So Ship, what those are little things that go inside the big boy potties.
I still see him. I still see him even sitting down. Okay,
yeah,
so I don't
just because they're called cake doesn't mean they taste good.
I don't get to eat them. I can't eat them.
No.
So I don't know how somebody got the urinal cake out of the urinal. I didn't ask. I don't care. Right? They got out, and that car owner happened to be going in the bathroom, and they was going to play a prank on him, and they put the urinal cake beside the sink. So when he got done using the bathroom, he goes to the sink, and he picks up the urinal cake, and he's rubbing his hands, and he's figuring out why there ain't no soap. And finally, someone had to tell him that it was the urinal cake. And let me tell you something, he was mad as hell.
He was mad.
He was mad.
Oh my God, I can't believe.
There's hilarious. A lot of pranks. There's a lot of
has
pranks that actually I got a good one about Willie. Willie's the reason why we can't have fireworks no more in the cup shop.
This is gonna
like
be
him
good.
Personally.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, him personally.
You had my interest, now you have my attention. Go ahead.
Exactly.
Okay. And actually so this is actually a tied in with a Randy Cox story.
We love Randy stories.
Yeah, so Randy was a big person. Like, you need to be working all the time, right? No screwing off, no goofing off, like get to work. And he didn't like people messing around in the bathroom. He's like, the bathroom, you should be in there 10 minutes tops. That's it. Right. And Randy used to tell us, like, we have permission. If somebody's not out of the bathroom in 10 minutes, we have permission to do anything we want to get them out. Right. So somebody went to South Carolina and bought a bunch of fireworks.
Would that be on the border, possibly?
No, I'm not going to incriminate myself. So no, I don't think it was. So our plan was, whenever somebody was in the bathroom, we was going to throw firecrackers or M80 or whatever under the door. Like, there was enough gap between the door and the concrete floor to throw fireworks in there, right? So one day, our interior guy grabbed his fireworks, right? And Willie is the engine tuner. So the car's up on jack stands, like, we're nut and bolting it. We're just do final prep, right? So Willie plugs in the oil that morning to get it heated up so we can fire it up. So the interior guy at the time says, hey, Willie, your oil tank is smoking. You might want to come check it, right? So Willie comes walking over there. He slides under the car. Well, by that time, the interior guy is lighting up this firecracker, and he throws it on the plate. And now the surface plate is a very slick piece of metal, right? So when something hit it, it don't stop. It slides. So when he threw it, he thought it was going to stop. So when it hit, it slid right into Willie's face, and Willie happened to turn, and it went off. Right.
Oh no.
And he got mad. So Willie goes out of the car, and he's cussing and screaming. Right. And I'm trying not to laugh. And Willie takes his fist and he smashes it in the garage door. Right. And walks out. And now that's why we're not allowed to have fireworks no more, because Randy said we took it too far. He says, I give you a little bit and you take it too far. And actually, I have another funny story about I was working somewhere about taking stuff too far. So a car was on jack stands, and we caught a young guy sleeping under the car, right?
Ooh.
So the general manager I was working for, and this is not Go Fast for anybody this was not at Go Fast. This is somewhere else.
Way before.
So, yeah. So the general manager says, go in my office. There's a bottle of lighter fluid, because we had a grill and he would cook sometimes, right? So he gets the lighter fluid and he goes all around the car twice, right? He lights the lighter fluid on fire. So, it's kind of flickering, and everybody starts yelling, fire, get out of the shop. Well, this guy wakes up from his sleep, knocks his head on the floorboard, and he's freaking out because he thinks the shop's on fire and he can't get out. So that's a lesson to you: do not sleep on these race cars.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
First of all, and again, no names. We change names to protect the guilty around here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's right.
Who in the actual hell thinks it's a good idea to crawl up under a jacked up race car weighing 3,000 and 4,000 pounds and take a damn nap?
Trust me, there's a lot of people that do it. There's a lot of people.
Second of all, who in the world thinks it's a good idea to put a bunch of lighter fluid next to a flammable race car and light the sumbitch on fire?
That's him.
Y'all are something else. Here's the thing. I'm just telling you, with the lack of rules that y'all have against how much fun and shenanigans y'all can do, I'd get fired. Because if you give me an inch, I'm taking 17 miles at 195 mile an hour, and I guarantee you, I'd get fired. Because you're telling me that, I'm like, man, I don't even know if I would do that. That's crazy. So, I mean, it sounds like you guys have a lot of fun. I'll be honest with you, it sounds almost like it's just I don't want to say a fraternity with like the,
but that's
the
how
concept
it feels.
of like a bunch of guys with pop collars that think they're cool because they drink Busch, when really they don't know yet that it's the greatest beer on the planet. And they all live in a house, and they.
I drank Busch way before it was cool. Okay, I drank Busch like way before it was cool.
I don't think it's cool. It's just correct. I mean, I don't have to be cool. I'm just correct. That's all. And like you said, I asked you when are y'all going to lock Busch down for a sponsorship for y'all's podcast?
We're trying.
Yeah,
we're trying.
We're doing
Trust
the same.
me.
We're doing the same. The farthest I've gotten is I did have a distributor give me a shitload of Busch koozies. So
you sent them all the way to North Carolina.
Yeah,
I still have all of them.
For those of you watching from home, we have 4 Laps Down swag in stock. When you order a shirt, you get some Busch Light swag with it. So make sure you do that. And
I got that. I got a bottle opener. I think I got.
It's fun. So listen, the difference between somebody that drinks beer and somebody that drinks too much beer is, like, for example, Ship called it a bottle opener, and it's a bottle opener. It looks just like this. Okay, some people call it a bottle opener. If you drink too much beer, you call it a shotgun tool. And our buddy Paul Huber from Lebanon, Tennessee, called it a shotgun tool. He said,
shotgun tool.
He said, around these parts, they refer to me as Silver Thunder. It's a long story we won't get into, but so Paul goes live on Facebook one night talking about, I got my 4 Laps Down gear. Paul's in marketing, like, as a career, so he's all about sharing all the love. And he goes, I got my 4 Laps Down gear, and I'm live from the Rock and Roll Wood Shop. And he does a show every Monday. He calls it Metal Monday, where he plays metal music on Alexa until Facebook shuts him down because he doesn't own that music. And he says, and I got a shotgun tool, and he opens it, and I looked at it, and I was like, I didn't send him a shotgun. Hell, I don't have a shotgun tool, and it's an opener. It's all
just a bottle opener.
And it's like, well, I guess hey, anything's a shotgun tool if you hit the can hard enough. But I'm telling you right now, for a dude that's he's over the hill, for a guy of his age, he can shotgun like a sumbitch. But with that being said, I mean, I appreciate you coming on the show, and we can, if you've got more stories to tell, we can go all night, because at this point we've got about an hour's worth of podcast content. At this point, it's just people watching at home. I mean, we've got Chris Landis here, B3 Ranch, one of our sponsors, checking in. Brandon Taylor's here. Brandon Taylor says Bud Light, not Busch Light. He says, "What's going on, Chris?" Ryan Ellis is checking in. I think we already talked about him. I mean, are there any other great stories you can tell us? I mean, what's your go-to if I say, "All right, Womack, we got 5
We're at a
minutes.
bar.
We got 5
Yeah, we're at a
minutes.
bar.
Okay, I can't tell that one. I can't. Listen,
Okay.
if
All right.
listen, Ellis, if like Ryan Ellis, Willie Pilot, if they are listening, they know what story I'm talking about. They know, but I can't. One day I will call you and tell you that story, but I
Fair
cannot.
enough.
I cannot tell that story. Everybody knows what my go-to story is,
Fair enough.
because I had to tell that story to a lot of people in racing.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I have a similar story, but I'm the schlep in the story, so I don't tell it because, I'll tell you what my trick is though. If you ever have a story that's really funny and it's gonna get laughs, but you're the asshole in the story, I do this because I've only been married once, right? And my wife's only been married once, but I start the story as my wife's first husband was such a dumbass, and then I tell the story and I just wait and see if anyone figures out that I'm the dumbass. And I learned that from a college professor that I had, because we were about 3 months in before we realized all these stories about his wife's first husband, who was a complete buffoon, is actually him. So you can use that. You can go in the shop and you can talk about yourself, and nobody will know. They'll laugh with you thinking y'all are.
Oh no! See, I have to be myself in this story. I have to. So I can't.
Well, that's all right.
You can't really get around that one.
Listen, I'll get the story out of you one of these days, but we'll do it off the air. But I do want to try to get you and the rest of the guys on the racing table on at some point, just to talk a little bit more about y'all's podcast. You've been so gracious to be here with us this evening. Is there
so anything? what's the plan coming up? Yeah, what's the plan coming up for you guys, Chris? I mean, I know you said it's bi-weekly. Has there been any topics that have already been put out? I know you said Daytona 500's the topic to come up. Is there any other guests that we know of that are coming? Or
actually, well, I was going to do a video probably tomorrow or whatever, and I got this guy. He's also going to help us promote, but we have a guest coming. I think that show should be out Friday. Hopefully it is. It might be a little bit longer because it's like Daytona week, but it's a NASCAR Xfinity / truck driving guy, Brett Moffitt. So he's going to be on the show this coming Friday.
Love to hear that. Wait, hold on. Is that news breaking for the first time on 4 Laps Down? Is this the first place you've ever said
yes,
that?
Yes.
Yes. We get an exclusive out of you.
Yeah, so it's breaking news.
Breaking news. All right. Well, listen, folks, if you got nothing else out of tonight, breaking news live. Well, not live, but appearing on the racing table is going to be very, very seasoned veteran NASCAR driver Brett Moffitt.
And that was a fun one. That was a good one.
Oh,
if you like Chase, you'll like this one.
Yeah. So y'all have recorded it. It's just not out yet.
Correct.
Okay. So
I went ahead, and what I did was I commented. I actually copy and pasted the link to yours off of Spotify. I put it in our comments. So if anybody's watching now, the Racing Table podcast link is in our comment section.
Yeah, and I just want to give a quick shout out. I actually just got a text from one of our buddies who did our NFL show with us. We've had consistently between 20 and 25 viewers tuned in throughout the entire night. So we appreciate everybody. Man, there's a lot of dumb shit you can watch on your computer at home. I mean, hell, we started going live before qualifying was over, and y'all chose to hang out with us. Thank you for giving us some love. Thank you for coming out to hear from our guest, Chris Womack. And Chris, before we wrap it up for the evening, tell us a little bit. Is there anything? Obviously, you're a NASCAR guy. You like race cars. What else do you like to do? What do you like to fill your time with when you're not doing what you love and working on race cars?
Well, when I don't have my kids, because my kids are are my number one. Right.
Absolutely.
As soon as I get out of working on race cars or whatever, I go pick them up, or I'll go see them, or whatever. Those are my number ones. But when I don't have them, I like to play video games.
That's right.
I don't even I don't even care if people talk junk about me. I like playing video games. I actually like playing golf. I suck at golf, but I enjoy playing it because you can go out there, you can bullshit with your friends, and you can drink beer.
Mm-hmm.
And you can drink beer playing video games if you want to. It doesn't matter.
I'll promise
But
you.
yeah.
I know that.
But those are the only things that I do. It's normally all about racing.
Yeah. So
Can I ask you a question? Because is this your TikTok, by the way? I know you haven't been on it for a while, right?
Yes, that is mine. I don't think nobody's like.
I know. I found it. I dig. I look for people. So
he's our investigative reporter. That's what we call him.
Yeah. Have we found an answer to this question though? Hang on.
So, do I start TikTok and then OnlyFans, or do I get OnlyFans and then start TikTok? I don't know how that works.
So did you figure it out yet?
No, I have not. I just assumed it was a TikTok, but I haven't. I feel like I need to put my Venmo and Cash App because all these women make a bunch of money. I haven't seen a dime yet, so I don't know.
Look, here's the thing, right?
I don't.
So we saw Matt Tift go from being a driver to a team owner in one off season. If you started an OnlyFans and you do it as well and produce the type of content that some of these women do, you could go from car chief to cup multiple team owner in one off season.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't get the appeal. Well, I get the appeal of wanting to make the money. What I don't get is the appeal of, here, take my credit card. Like, don't y'all know that's free?
Yeah,
There's so much free.
You can Google it.
20.
I know.
I was about to say, you can Google it.
I don't.
Oh,
I don't
got
like
a lot
this
of
one,
slack. Okay, a lot
Did
of
you?
people.
I know you would have. I hated it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I hated it because I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm a Cowboys fan.
Okay, listen. We've been in Texas for 5 days. I was ready to get out of there.
I know.
It rained in Texas. That's like the first time I ever went to Phoenix for a race. First time in my life. It rains in Phoenix. It don't rain, but it rained there.
Most importantly, it doesn't snow. Because
No,
we
it
got
doesn't.
about, listen, so here in Cincinnati, we got about 7 or 8 inches. And I'm
You
telling
can
you
keep
right
it.
now,
We're good down here in North Carolina. We'll take
Oh,
our
my
rain every
God.
once in a while.
our good
but
buddy Ed DeBoer
we're
from
good.
Cadillac, Michigan. He's a good. He does a lot of online racing with us on iRacing and NASCAR Heat, and he tells me, he says, good, we sent y'all some because we get enough of it from Canada. We wanted to spread the wealth and share the love. And I told him, I said, you come get it, pack it up in bags and take it the hell back to Michigan, or I'm going to drive it up there myself and I'm going to hit you in the skull. Because I'm telling you right now, this 8 inches of snow. Now, granted, we get snow every year, but we ain't had snow like this. And I work at a car dealership as my real job. And we spent the entire day yesterday from open to close moving cars and plow. We've got a snow plow. It wasn't like we had to shovel everything. We got a snow plow, and we still ain't done. And then it snowed more today, and I'm like, you know what? People that like this shit, they're stupid.
Nah, you can have it.
Yep. They can keep it.
So hang on because I want Chris to tell me what kind of slack he got. Nate, have you heard this yet?
Go ahead and play it because the folks at home haven't.
Yeah. So here's Chris talking about Texas.
In Texas on Sunday. It's supposed to race Sunday, but it's raining and it's like 40 degrees, and now it's like Tuesday, and I don't know when I'll be home, so I'm pretty mad. But this is how to piss off people from Texas. Your barbecue's not that great. North Carolina's way better. Dr. Pepper sucks. George Strait, overrated. Whataburger, not that good. Let's see. All your professional football teams suck. And I think that's about it. I've been in Texas since.
Now look.
Okay.
For you to dog on Whataburger, I don't even appreciate that now.
Okay. All right. So here's the bad thing. I like Whataburger and I like George Strait. I was just so mad and I just wanted to piss people off. So that's why I said it.
I was going to say, I brought you as the first ever guest on our.
I know. I feel
podcast.
honored.
And you want to talk about George Strait the way that. Now, granted, at the time,
George Strait,
you didn't know, but listen.
He was mad. He was mad.
I get it. We've all done things when we're mad that we regret, or drunk. maybe you were both. I
Or
don't know.
both.
I
Or
don't
both.
know. Maybe you were both.
You can hear the rain in the background as he sits in the car.
Yeah.
That's
So
the best.
okay, so
You just
that's
hear
I
it.
didn't actually I actually had forgotten about that horrific week because I was so damn mad they didn't get the race in. Because then they're all talking about, well, it's the playoffs and we can't, we've got sponsor things, sponsor obligations. Where Martinsville's got to go Sunday, so they might just cancel it. And I'm like, as a fan, I'm sitting here thinking, who in the hell's flying this umbrella and who is making these awful dog shit decisions? And I was so mad. I was ready. All these people that showed up at the track day after day after day thinking they're going to watch a race and all they watch is rain. How was that on the other side of pit road where y'all are sitting there, and I don't know how that works, and I'm not going to ask you and you're not going to tell me. I don't know how that even works from a compensation standpoint, but I don't like to work for free, and I damn sure don't like to drive to work and not get paid for it. So how bad was that?
It wasn't bad because we got to play poker, watch a bunch of movies, and just kind of eat In-N-Out burgers all the time. So it wasn't too bad. Oh, we got to play
now I don't feel bad.
Xbox.
Now I don't feel bad for you.
Yeah, it
No.
sounds like it's so horrific
Yeah.
and terrible.
But trust
Like
me, we would rather be home. I don't want to be in a lounge with 6 other dudes eating cheeseburgers watching Django. I'd rather be at home.
Yeah.
I took y'all more as a 50 Shades of Grey kind of group.
Well,
Well,
now,
well,
wait a minute.
With Chase Briscoe, we did watch that before. So
That harkens back to y'all's episode. So and maybe y'all said it, but I might have missed it. How did a bunch of grown ass men end up watching 50 Shades of Grey?
okay, well, let me tell you something. Paul Andrews, who ran Cunningham,
And Cunningham was the ARCA team that you and Chase were both at. And
correct.
of course, we're not talking about Chase Elliott for the folks at home, although I talk about him a lot. We're talking about Chase Briscoe, front runner for Rookie of the Year. Go ahead.
5.14 Mustang.
Yeah. So his wife, Evelyn, she runs the show. Let me tell you something. You don't know what she says goes. So if she want to watch,
That's
50
every
Shades of Grey-
that's every NASCAR driver. Because you ask anybody if Kyle Busch acts up around Samantha, and the answer is hell no.
Or Deanna.
Yeah.
So whatever she wanted to watch, we watched. So
She's
That's
So what
it.
you're saying? So it's okay. So the old
So
joke.
nobody walked out. Nobody left. Everybody just went, "Oh, it's 50 Shades. I guess we'll just
Okay, well,
sit
first
here
of all,
and
listen.
watch it."
no, we couldn't because it was in a van. We was going to a race, and they had the TV mounted in the top of the
Oh.
van.
So you're telling me
So-
nobody thought, you know what? I'd rather jump out of a moving van on the interstate.
No, actually, and not a knock at Ohio, but there's a lot of times driving through Ohio to go to like Michigan or where a race. I'm like, I feel like I just want to jump out right now. Like I don't want to keep driving through Ohio.
Yeah.
It's nothing against Ohio. I
It's
just
boring.
I was tired
it's
of driving.
boring. Well, listen, like I said, I drove 90 minutes from Southwest Ohio to Central Ohio and Columbus, and literally it is flat and it is straight. You can literally take your hands off the wheel, go 120, and unless you hit a pothole, that car ain't moving for miles. It is that boring. I mean, I'm just
'Cause-
telling you. It's
Our
bad.
co-host
Somebody's
Mike.
calling out Womack for calling George Strait overrated, by the way.
I
I'm
knew.
behind
See,
on
I still
comments.
get.
I'm behind on the
listen,
comments.
I
Wow.
did
Yeah,
it
you
just
are
for the-
behind.
Hey, I did it just for the content.
I was
Okay?
gonna say you can't say you did it just for the Vine anymore. You can't
Yeah.
say that. We're not allowed to say that no more.
Well, yeah. So Jesse says George Strait's not overrated. Kristen Thomas says that she would watch hypothetically. I assume talking about Womack's OnlyFans.
I guess it's
Yeah.
fans only. Or is it,
Yeah,
which one?
OnlyFans, because that was back a couple of minutes ago. Alex Van Evie's checking in from Michigan with a bunch of laughing faces, but he's laughing all the time anyway. So,
That is true.
so what you're telling me is, so y'all are in a van. I want to get back to this because this is
Yeah.
the dynamic here is intriguing to me. I am very lucky that my wife allows me, she permits me, because every wife is in charge, but she permits me to be able to say, I hear what you're saying, and I ain't trying to hear any of that. So this is what I want to do, and she lets it go. She
Yeah.
calls it picking her battles. So it doesn't surprise me that, for example, Chase Briscoe's wife, who from what I understand and what I know of her, from her public persona, is a fantastic individual, and there's nothing but good things said about her. But I can understand her having Chase's nuts kind of in a mason jar up on the shelf. But what you're telling me is that she had a Rubbermaid tub so big that y'all was just swimming in it, and she put y'all up on the shelf. Is that?
Yeah, she
Am I hearing
literally
that
took the
correctly?
whole. She took the whole van.
Yes, Paul's wife is she took the van over. Yes.
Very good. Well, hey, listen, I can understand it and I appreciate it because I say that and I can't talk any mess because my wife asked me and I willingly said yes, I will go to go see that movie in theaters.
I saw it.
And I saw it in theaters, and it was
Mhm.
kind of like when I think I don't remember which one of those damn Twilight movies it was, but this is years ago. We were in college and they come out and she'd been reading the books and she says, "Let's go see this movie." I'm like, "Whatever." It got to a point where like after like 2 of them and I found out they were making 5 or 6 or whatever the hell it was, we had to establish some ground rules, and I said, "Listen, okay, I'm not talking bad about them, but the Marvel movies are not my thing, right? They're just not my thing." I said, "I'll go see Marvel movies with you. Hell, I'll go see romantic comedies." I said, "I am not sitting through another one of them goddamn Twilight movies. I promise you. You ain't got enough money in our joint checking account to bribe me, and there ain't nothing you could do to convince me to go." And you know what? She stopped asking. It only took one of the 50 Shades movies, and I said, "Listen, I ain't doing it. I'm sorry. So props to you guys for sitting there and taking it like gentlemen, sitting in a van.
Yeah.
Because if there's anything worse than watching it with your wife, it's got to be watching it with a bunch of other grown-ass dudes.
6 other dudes.
Oh yeah. But you know what?
How you feeling about this movie, bud? I'm feeling pretty good. How about you? All right. They get to the track and it's, "Hey man, you remember that part when they were in the elevator?"
You remember how mean he talked to her before he whipped the shit out of her and she liked it? How do I get my girlfriend to like it when I whip the shit out of her and she tells me to stop?
That's literally
I feel like that conversation probably happened at some point. So, well, needless to say, I think we're to the point of the show that's probably going to get cut before we publish this to Spotify, and that's fine. That's fine. But Chris, I appreciate you coming on, man. Is there anything else, any other stories, any other projects or things you care about that you want to promote while you're here?
Well, no, we just, with the Racing Table Podcast, with myself, Willie, and Jesse, and Mike, I got to thank them. I feel like I don't praise them enough for helping me do it, because without them, I couldn't do it. And actually, I couldn't do it without like people like y'all supporting us and just sharing it, and and just getting the word out there. Like we're fairly new, and and we're building. So hopefully, eventually, we can get some sponsorship and we can just get more viewers, and we just want people to enjoy it. We want to have it. Where people enjoy listening to it, where they laugh, we just get the word out there, like we're so we'll be good. I think that's the only projects that we got going on. Honestly, we just want to make that better.
Cool. So, and I got to ask you, so where's your confidence level coming into this season? Because I know you're with a new team, you're in a new role. I'm going to butcher his name. Is it Cody Rodaball?
Man, you're going to get me to butcher that. It's Cody Roddenbach.
Roddenbach. Okay. So I'm going to trust that you said it right, and I'm going to say how you said it.
I probably didn't say it right.
We'll go with Roddenbach.
And if anybody calls me out, I'm going to say, "Listen, you need to talk to Womack."
Told me, Womack said it.
He literally works with the guy, and that's he said, and I said, and that's how it goes. So obviously coming in, it's a smaller team, even at the truck scale, and y'all are going to run. Y'all are planning at this point, assuming that funding is there, a full truck season and a partial bush season. Is that correct?
Well, so no, well, as of right now, the plan is I think they're going to run some ARCA races, but that's not really got nothing to do with me. As of right now, I think we're going to run 16 truck races and maybe a handful of bush races later on. Okay. But if we win, maybe in the first 4 or 5 races, because I'm pretty sure we're going to run the first 5. If we just happen to win one of them races, we're going to run all year.
and
in the
compete,
trucks.
and compete for
Yes.
points and owners points and driver
Yes.
points and all of it.
Oh, nice.
So then you would not run any bush races, or you would do double duty on some weekends.
I don't know on that one. I have no idea on that one. I would assume that we might run one or two, but that's just me assuming. But yeah, and it's actually a really good possibility for us to win, like the Speedway. It's a road course, Vegas, Atlanta, and the Bristol Dirt. The Bristol Dirt, I'm really excited about that. I'm glad that we're going to that one. But I feel like the road course, the Speedway, the Dirt could be up in there, and that's really a chance for us to win. And this is not a knock at Go Fast, because Go Fast was the first team that ever gave me my shot in Cup. Like, they're the only one to ever give me a shot. So Mason St. Hilaire, I can't thank him enough. But the trucks that we have are like really good trucks, and like we actually have more parts and better pieces than we did at Go Fast, because we I think this off season or last year they affiliated themselves with GMS. So like our shop is right beside GMS.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's the Hendrix of Truck Series. So
Yeah.
Yes. So like all the parts, all the pieces, the bodies, they come straight to us. We service them. I put the trucks together, and then we'll set them up, and then we'll go to the dyno or whatever, since we don't have a lot of, since we don't practice that much anymore, and we'll go to the racetrack. And, their sim program from GMS is amazing, and it's pretty much dead on. So like when we get the sim and they bring it to me and I put the truck together, it's within a 16th wheel spacer or slug, like right there. It's pretty good.
Now, when you say there's sim, you're not talking about like iRacing for the drivers. You're talking about for y'all's stuff.
Yes, for like car setup and stuff like that. Basically, what it is, it's a program where you can put shock, springs, track, temp, whatever in this program. And, there's a graph that shows you, a truck getting in the corner, middle of the corner, out of the corner, and what it's doing, and so on and so on.
Wow.
And how you can fix it, basically.
Now, sorry, go ahead.
It just gives you a baseline setup.
Cool. I have to ask this because I'm curious, not because it's necessarily a follow up. And you're the one in front of me. I would ask this to anybody that's involved. So I like yourself, am a kind of a gamer, and I've been a lifelong NASCAR fan. So I like I'm real big on iRacing. Got involved with that about 6, 7, 8 months ago, and I've enjoyed it because I feel like it doesn't feel like a video game. It feels more like I'm driving a car, which I've always thought, well, these video games aren't real and I suck at them and who cares? But I feel like if I could get behind a car at Daytona, I know how a draft works. I could win a damn race. And then William Byron shows up and wins a damn race at Daytona, and he got his start in iRacing. But I have a question for you, and that is, you being in the know, how would you rank the realism from, and maybe I don't know if you've ever done iRacing, but what would you say the comparison between something like that and really driving a truck or really driving a car? How similar is it really?
Like, you want me to be honest?
Yeah.
Like my honest opinion, I don't think it's worth a damn.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yes.
Like iRacing does a great job of getting like the video that looks like a racetrack, and they do a really good job about getting the billboards right. Like everything, the characteristics of the racetrack is right. I mean, is identical. I mean, but far as like, I've been in one and I'm like, nah, this don't work. Like, I've been to racetracks where I know how to drive the line, and I try to drive that line on iRacing, and it's like, it don't work. So in my opinion, and this is only my opinion, I don't think it's worth a damn.
So how often are drivers using iRacing at all for like some of these new road courses?
Yes. And I can't remember who said it, but some driver said, iRacing's okay. It's not like being in there, but but you get used to the track layout, the turns, stuff like braking points, stuff like that. Yeah.
But well, I can tell you one thing that's not the same is that, obviously if you're running at any level of professional drivers, right? It's nothing to go 70, 80 laps green flag at Daytona. I promise you, you get in one of these iRacing lobbies, you ain't going to. You know, you're just not, because it's a bunch of people like me who are sitting on their couch. They got neck beards, and they sit in their mom's basement, and they get real good at driving real fast on their little tiny sim wheels. You know, and
Aren't you in a basement, by the way? Aren't you in a basement?
this is a professional recording studio.
I'm
Let's
just
get
asking.
something
You
right.
said a basement.
Let's
You
get
said
something
come on,
right. Hey,
come on, Lieutenant Dan.
and you know
Damn.
what? I'm telling you, I've shaved an average of 0.3 of a second since I got my Alpine Stars gloves. I'm just telling you, okay?
Okay.
So I'm big time, but at the end of the day, I had to ask. I'm sorry, because I've always been curious to see, because you see these things on Twitter, right? You got Anthony Alfredo and Garrett Smithley and some of these other guys running in all these iRacing leagues and doing all of it. And a part of me thinks it's marketing, it's branding, it gets their name out there. How realistic is it? And it's interesting to hear you talk about it the way that you do, because you don't have nothing to hide behind. So of course I believe your answer is probably transparent and true. But then again, you see a guy like William Byron, right? Who was it? 7 years ago, was the first time he ever raced a real car, and before that it started with iRacing. I guess it's 8 years now, and you think, well, different stroke for different folks, I guess. I don't know.
But it's also too, like, if you look at it, when NASCAR was doing the iRacing thing, two of the best drivers out there, Kyle Busch and Jimmy Johnson, could not do it.
And Timmy Hill dominated.
Kyle Busch
is
getting better, though, because earlier this year, so there's a league, and it's called Monday Night Racing, and it's all real drivers. It's all people affiliated with the actual sport. So it's real drivers. It's there's some people that aren't drivers, but like marketing people and this kind of stuff. They had Larry Mack and DW in the booth for one of their races. I mean, it's big time. And Kyle Busch runs in this, and they ran. They do every week. They do a different track and different stock cars. So they've run Indy cars, they've run late models, they've run super lates, they've run all kinds of stuff. But their first race was Cup cars at Talladega. In the last restart, it was a green white checkered. Kyle Busch restarted 23rd. Okay, and it was you could tell that man knew what the hell he was doing in a race car, because he got all the way to the front and won that race, and it was incredible, and I've never seen anything like it. But then, yeah, to your point, you got, the odds-on favorite to win some of those pro invitational races was Timmy Hill and Garrett Smithley. I love Garrett Smith. I'm a big Garrett fan, but he won the most recent, Monday Night Racing League race at Richmond because Anthony Alfredo got wrecked on the last lap. And I mean, so there's obviously some type of difference, because if Timmy Hill was as good in a real car as he is in that, he'd probably be running for, at least Roush, maybe Hendrick, somebody else, but he's
See, I don't want to knock Timmy, because actually Timmy Hill is a really good race car driver. He's just never been in the good equipment. Like, we begged before we knew we was all getting fired on the 32, and they couldn't find a driver. We all kind of begged if we could get Timmy Hill. Was there a way that we could get Timmy Hill?
Yeah.
Like, we would take Timmy Hill over anybody else, because there was a lot of drivers that was coming in that shop, and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, hope not this guy.
Yeah. Well, I feel like with a lot of these guys, because I feel like the Cup Series is as loaded with talented drivers as it's ever been, in its history, to the point where you've got guys who 10, 15 years ago would be getting calls from these top teams about come drive for us, not the other way around, that are, that are running for mid-tier teams. And I am convinced that there are some guys hanging on, and again, I'm not talking smack about Jimmy Johnson, but from a talent standpoint, I mean, Jimmy was past his prime. There was really probably a place maybe four-ish years ago, about 2-3 years after he won his last title, where Hendricks would have been better served to move on to one of these younger guys that's been relegated to the back. And it's hard, because I'm a big Bubba guy. I love Bubba. I think Bubba's a good driver. Obviously, the whole concept of Bubba Wallace is a very layered dynamic that we don't necessarily need to get into. But I think Bubba's a good driver that I think is going to really impress people this year with the quality of equipment that he's going to be in, that I don't think he ever got in the 43 car. And I think,
well, look at tonight.
The only thing Stenhouse can really do well is qualify at Daytona, and I like Ricky. He was bagging Danica for a while. You got to give the man props. He's got a bitchin' mullet half the time. But I mean, at the end of the day, Stenhouse, he qualifies well at Daytona, and then he runs mid-pack the rest of the year, and we love him. He causes some of the most entertaining accidents of the year. If he ever comes on my show, I'll apologize for saying that, but that's fine. And, but then you got a guy like Bubba, who has, I think, outperformed his equipment historically. And I don't think Bubba's the only one. I just think he's probably the highest profile. I think it's a little silly that Ty Dillon doesn't have a full-time ride. I think he's a great race car driver. I think guys like Timmy Hill, are good drivers. I think there's some guys that are destined to kind of bounce and backfill. But I mean, look at like, for example, AJ Allmendinger. He's been a decent driver. He's kind of bounced around. He's got a shot here with Colleague at the Xfinity level to finally have some stability and steadiness. And I think he's a hell of a wheel guy. He's a dog on the road courses. And I think he's a good driver too. And I think there's a lot of guys in this sport. I mean, because at the end of the day, when, like, for example, there was a race last year, Kyle Busch got in an accident. There was some quote unquote inexperienced drivers that, in his words, were involved in that can't win a super late race, let alone, and they're riding in Cup Series. I think if you even get a shot, you're a top 0.1% driver in the world. And I still think that's true. I've always thought that, and I think these guys are all good drivers. It's just a matter of getting them out there, and getting them. I think equipment means more in Cup and in the other national series in NASCAR than it really does anything else. And obviously, better than me. I mean, I don't know if you'd agree with that or not, but I mean, what's your take on that? Do you think equipment really makes that big of a difference?
Yes, but also too, the only thing that makes race cars go fast is race car drivers. But equipment but with that being said, equipment does have a lot to do with it. But you can tell, and I'll use Corey as an example. Corey takes our second-rate stuff, and if we don't have bad luck, he can run 25th with it. As versus if you put someone else in that car, we might run 30th or 31st. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So like drivers can go past their equipment, but equipment is a big part of it. And the Cup cars, they're no slouch. These are the hardest. Well, these chassis. I don't know how the next gen cars are going to be, but this type of car, this type of chassis are the hardest cars to drive, hands down. That's why all these other drivers from different series never develop into anybody good unless their name is Tony Stewart. So
he's the exception. I mean, there's been a lot of people try, and but I argue that Tony Stewart's one of the greatest race car drivers that's ever lived. Not necessarily the greatest NASCAR Cup driver,
but yeah, just greatest driver.
Yeah, because I'll tell you this, and I think at some point we're going to see it. He'll get back behind the wheel of a Cup car for a couple of races at some point. I think I think he's all into the dirt right now. Once he gets to the point where the novelty of jumping back into his pastime has kind of worn off in a couple of years, and maybe it's when Harvick retires and he's got a new guy that is going to run 20 races and he'll run 5 and he'll put somebody else in it. I mean, at some point, Stewart's going to run back in a car, and it would not shock me for him to win. Like when Mark Martin, jumped back in for Hendricks for what was going to be a 1-year contract, and he won 2 races and ended up running for 2 full seasons. Went from going part-time to run 2 because he won. Because he ran up front and he won 2 races. Because at the end of the day, I'll tell everybody this: Mark Martin's the greatest driver in NASCAR history that's never won a championship, and it's not even close. Not even close, in my opinion. I mean, that man was just. It's a crock that he didn't win 4, just with his talent level and the equipment he had. But yeah, Tony Stewart, I think is we'll see him at some point, very briefly, but we'll see him. He's not going to be like Jeff Gordon, where he feels like he's going to get the flu getting back into a Cup car. I mean, as hard as it was for him to fill in for Dale, Junior, when he got hurt that year after he retired. I mean, I don't think we'll ever see Gordon even anywhere close to a car again.
He's happy where he's at.
He might run a truck at Martinsville or something. Like he said that before.
I'd love it. I have respect for Dale. I have Dale in my studio, but I was a Rainbow Warrior. I was an OG Rainbow Warrior because that was my.
I'm rolling my eyes right now.
I know. I saw it. I seen it. But I'm just telling you that so his rookie season was 93. I was 4 years old. His first season was not his first season where he came out and he won 2 races and really competed. And then his first championship was the year after. So 94, 95. That's when I was old enough to know what is this that my dad watches every Sunday. You know, that if church goes long and he doesn't get to see the green flag drop, he starts yelling and saying words that he's not allowed to say in church. You know, and it was Gordon. But unlike most Gordon fans, I also like Dale Sr. because Dale Sr. was the best to ever do it.
Well, I can't knock Gordon too much because we have a Gordon cutout in the studio.
Oh, I know.
So
I'm jealous. I wouldn't trade that one for your cutout, but I'd love to have them both. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. So, well, listen, I've rambled and I've taken up a lot of time, but Chris, I appreciate you coming on.
No, I had fun, man.
Yeah.
I have fun. Like I said, I don't know what it's like being on this side, but it's a blast.
Yeah. So for everybody watching from home, thank you for tuning in. This has been our first episode. Listen, well, like our football shows were 3+ hours, right?
Yeah,
because
it was
that
long.
much. Now, part of it
I've watched some of them. They're actually pretty good. I've watched some of them.
So,
Did you watch him eat the chip, by the way? Did you watch him eat the chip?
So I did do. So when we picked the games,
I don't know if I've done that one.
We kept track of it. That was for this last Friday. I'll have to find the video and send it to you.
I was about to say.
It's hard to say on Facebook because
it's
so all right. So we're gonna cut this from the podcast. So break. All right. So on Facebook you won't find it because see what had happened is one of my buddies, Chris Land, who does the show with us. He was on vacation in Gatlinburg, and I can't believe I'm talking about this on Facebook Live because we are still live on Facebook, but it's fine. And we're wrapping up, and it's our last show of the season. You know, I'm like on the verge of tears because this was a stupid idea that I had, hoping that I could use it to learn something on how to, because I wanted to do this, what we're doing now, but I didn't know how. I had no idea. And so I said, let's do an NFL show. We'll work it out. And these guys just jumped in, right? We're 21 weeks in. We 21 episodes. We haven't missed one. Have averaged we were in 5,000 and 6,000 different homes a week, a week on this show. And I'm like, thinking this is it, like we're wrapping up. I'm like getting emotional. He's in vacation in Pigeon Forge, and a person in their party, we'll say, who was of the female persuasion, comes over, and all she sees was what you see: bunch of dudes in a Zoom meeting, right? She doesn't realize we're live on Facebook, so she does what every very intoxicated female would do. Hey, y'all, and you know. It's a full screen of just,
exposes.
And so Chris is shutting it down and doing all this stuff. And it was so some of the footage is lost because in order to avoid a Facebook timeout so that we could do this show tonight live on Facebook,
yes,
I had to hit the delete button and it pained me to do it. But I will say it was rather funny to watch in the moment Chris scramble and not know what to do because, number one, it wasn't his wife, and so I don't know if he was even comfortable with what he was seeing behind him. And number two, it was wild. None of us expected it. It was pretty crazy, but yeah. So I'll try to find somewhere the footage of in that whole thing. I mean, we had so it's the three of us tonight.
It's around 9:30, yeah.
Yeah,
9:30.
you see the three of us here. We had 12 people at this Zoom meeting because everybody that had jumped in throughout the season was like, "We got to be there. We got to be there. He's gonna eat this one chip challenge, and it's like 1.5 million on the Scoville scale, and it's gonna melt him, and he's gonna be." And I just ate the chip, and I was like, I don't know. Like they were expecting me to freak out, and I handled it like a champ, but I'll find the footage and I'll send it to you.
All right.
But yeah, but I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah,
and,
definitely. This was great.
And you got any last words before we shut her down?
Other than thank y'all for for doing this and let me be on the show. I appreciate it. I really do. I had fun.
Good. Well, I'm glad you weren't bored because I was like, he's gonna be bored with us. We don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Hey,
No, hell no.
So,
but no, it was good, man. It's good. If every episode's like this, not saying that I'm good or anything, but if as long as y'all have fun and just roll with it, man, it's gonna be a blast and it will take off good. If you already got, you said 2,000 people, right, following y'all.
Yeah, yeah, right about.
So, yeah. So you're already better than us, man.
Yeah. So we've got about 600 that follow our page. Then we have a group called 4 Laps Down Nation that's about, we're past 1900. So what we do is anytime we get close to one, we put out a post and I say, okay, next time when we hit that benchmark every 100, I go live and I shotgun a Busch Light. And so then everybody's like adding their friends. So we'll creep from like 30 to like 70. And then that last 30 usually happens pretty quick because people start sharing and inviting people. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. We're going to be here. We're going to be here all season long. I will be honest with you. You are not the most high profile guest that we have booked at this point.
The hell you say?
I know, but I am not convinced. I'm not convinced that we'll have more fun with this person than we did with you tonight. You were the perfect first guest for us, man, because number one, you do a podcast. Well, so does he, but you do a podcast and you get about how this works, and but most importantly, man, you were just willing to come hang out with a bunch of race fans and talk a little rubbing and racing and drink some Busch Light. So thank you again.
Mm-hmm.
And
listen, I love race fans. And you know what? You're not even really race fans to me. You're friends. You know what I'm saying? Like if it wasn't for y'all, I couldn't do my job. So, I always take the time to try to talk to fans and bullshit with them. Like always just be nice to them,
Well, we're nice folks. If you're nice to us, we're nice to you.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. There's been many a times I've been in a campground of someone's camper I didn't even know because they were just race fans. So, thank you to them.
See, that's how one of those stories starts right there. I ended up in a camper. Well, what led up to that
I can't but I can't tell them stories.
There it is.
But they're there, and we know that they're there.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So listen, I'll be down at Bristol for the dirt race, so I'll look you up, and I don't know if you'll have time. I don't know what y'all's schedule is getting out of the track. I imagine you'll be there a couple days, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think like the Super Speedway race and then the Bristol race, as far as I know, is right now is the only two that we're going to practice and qualify and be there 2, maybe 3 days. I'm assuming the truck will be there 2 days. I assume.
Cool. Well, I'll look you up when I'm in the area if we get time, man. Busch Light on me.
Okay. All right,
brother. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. I'm gonna send you back to the waiting room, and Ship and I are gonna shut this down. But thanks for jumping in with us, man. We greatly appreciate it more than you know.
Hey, man. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. It was awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Not a problem, guys.
Have a good one, Chris.
All right, man.
See ya. Well, Ship, we did it. We talked about
it. That was epic. I can honestly say that was. I mean, it's 10:30. I mean, that was 2 hours. That was epic.
Coming up on 2 hours. I mean, I just want to let everybody that's still tuning in with us, and everybody's going to watch this later. So we are going to be publishing this as a more traditional podcast. We're going to be shortening the audio. Obviously, some of those stories that we talked about, just the iRacing stuff and all that. We're looking to put together a compelling podcast that people will enjoy listening. 45 to 60 minutes is the target, and we've currently got about an hour and 45 minutes worth of audio here to sift through. That's going to be a little bit later in the season, but I do want to talk about one thing real quick, and that is the fact that later on this week, keep an eye out for it. We are going to be publishing a quick 15 to 20 minute weekly series talking about NASCAR, DraftKings, how to win money betting on NASCAR. It's something that we enjoy doing. We've got a lot of guys who really know their stuff. Myself, Ship, Chris Land. We feel like we know the lay of the land, and we want to talk about how to win money on NASCAR, but we're not going to do it on this podcast show because we do want to protect the integrity of what these guys do. These guys are very close to the action, and gambling on sports and being involved in sports have to be very separate things. So you're not going to hear, outside of me talking about it right now, you're not going to hear about any of that on this show. But we are going to be weekly. We are going to be live every Wednesday night at 8:30 Eastern-ish, roundabout. Despite technical difficulties, and it's a work in progress. But Ship, I want to thank you for coming on this journey with us. I want to thank all of our viewers at home who watched tonight, who are going to be watching later. We love everybody, man. Just a couple of race fans sitting here in basements across America talking racing, rubbing, and you look like you're not in a basement because I see some wainscoting behind you.
Yeah, it's my office. It got hijacked because of virtual learning by my wife as a school teacher. So we're sharing
Does she
right now.
teach kids with the thin blue line behind her? Because I hope she does.
No,
Oh.
she covers it.
Oh, that's well.
Yeah.
Is it
So,
'cause-
but anyways,
well, never
moving
mind.
on.
Moving on.
Exactly. So again, what I want to say though is, I've done broadcasting before. I've done radio shows when I was in college. I did TV shows. I made a senior project movie. I worked down at a very prominent college down in Florence, South Carolina, for their athletic department, doing games and stuff. So I've always had a passion for this. So it was awesome to get an outlet to kind of do this, especially in the time that we are in right now. A lot of people are still at home, and scroll Facebook, and a 3 second swiping by. Hey, that's just to get your attention if you like NASCAR, and you watched the Clash last night, or you watched qualifying tonight, or you're watching the duels tomorrow, or the truck race on Friday, or the Xfinity race on Saturday, or the Daytona 500 on Sunday. I mean, we appeal to everybody. On top of the fact that Four Laps Down still sponsors the eNASCAR league that we help with. So
Four Laps Down also, I didn't announce this tonight because it wasn't super relevant, but Four Laps Down's also a season-long sponsor for an iRacing league as well. So we're in both platforms.
Exactly. So, I mean, we're out there, and we reach out to our fans, and we appreciate everybody watching. I mean, there's 9 people that are still showing watching on my end.
Yeah.
And the comments and the shares were epic tonight. And again, I use that word, but it was really fun to just be able to shoot the shit with Womack. I mean, hell, look at the comments. I mean, people were giving him hell. Ryan Ellis was giving him hell, and all those guys. So it's great to have that aspect, and we look forward to keep moving on and providing some content just to BS and for people that are out there that are watching, that are sitting here looking at us, staring at each other on a computer screen, to be able to acknowledge and agree with us. So,
yeah, for sure. And I think that it's great that everybody who,
me too.
I think it's great that everybody who chose to hang out with us tonight did so. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can be watching. So thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We'll be back next week. We will have, as our guest next week, he works with Brickware Racing, to Marcus Morgan, owner of Morgan's Van Racing Company. He will be with us. Marcus has been around racing for a couple of years now, and he's a good friend of ours, good friend of the show, and we work with him in a couple of different things. So we're excited to have Marcus on next week, assuming that schedules don't get changed because of Daytona, because obviously with these folks working with teams, it's always up in the air.
Yeah, I saw him on. I think I saw him on Snapchat tonight, or he was down there on pit road for qualifying, so he's down there enjoying it.
Yep, definitely going to be down there, and the good thing is with Zoom, it allows us to kind of connect with some of these people anywhere. So we'll be back live next week with Marcus. We will be uploaded on Spotify. It is going to take some time. Will not be this week. Our hope for that is that by May, some of these episodes are ready to go live on Spotify, so that you can download them in a more traditional podcast sense, and and share them with your friends and your family. So thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. For Daniel Ship, I'm Nathan, and this has been 4 Laps Down, and we will see you guys next time.